Hi everybody and welcome to the painting channel. Today it's a watercolor. It's all about this lovely little child paddling away on a lovely summer's day in the sea. So let's jump straight in and let's see what happens. Okay everybody, welcome back. As I said just now, it's all about this lovely child paddling in the surf and enjoying a warm summer's day and a little bit of fun time with mum in the shallows of the sea. So I honed in on this and I felt that it would be a wonderful watercolor for you to enjoy and hopefully get something from and have a go at yourselves. So before I do that, as always, let me just thank all my subscribers, new and old. Thank you so much for all the kind support you give my channel. It really does mean a lot to me and it helps me reach more people around the world. And if you are watching this and you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It's just to click on the bell and click on the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really does help me. It helps grow my channel and helps reach more people out there, so that'd be fantastic. Also, don't forget you can put the thumbs up, that really helps too, and comment on the video. I love reading the comments. I do answer each and every one of them. And don't forget, as always, my live stream every Monday evening at 7 o'clock London time. Fantastic, love to have you on board. Come into the chat and say something or introduce yourself. That would be great to know as well. And even more than that, don't forget always my Patreon. It's over there. Details are in the bit underneath each and every video that you can just jump over, look at all the different tiers, see what's on offer, and I'm sure there'll be something there that you would love to get involved with. And don't forget, it really doesn't cost an awful lot. Couple of cups of coffee or 1 cup of coffee a month, but you get so much. I think we're over 60 odd videos now for you to enjoy, and there's more being added all the time. There is also a second live stream every Friday evening for you, so you've got so much more to look forward to for just a few dollars a month, and that will be fantastic. And I'd love to see you there and love to invite you on board. So without further ado, let's get on with this video and let's just see what happens. Hi guys, and for this little drawing I actually did an awful lot of measuring. I worked out from the head how many of the heads went down the body so I could plot it fairly carefully. And throughout the whole of this drawing you really do need to take a great deal of care that you measure and you plot and you look at where things line up. You can see certain aspects of the arms and the legs, they sort of line up with other parts of the body. Use those little pointers when you come to do the drawing. I drew a little spine, a little suggestion of the weight of the body there. It will be erased at the end, but it does give me an idea. And all the time I'm checking and rechecking my measurements as I move forward. Now the thing is that I made several mistakes in this, as you would expect. I don't get the drawing exactly right every time. You do have to make some adjustments, and that's why I use a putty eraser on my watercolor paper so it doesn't damage the surface when I do such things. So the key to getting it right really is an awful lot of practice over a lot of time. You don't suddenly pick up a pencil and start drawing. It does need a lot of work on. And with all the years that I've been drawing, I still have to change, look and make judgments and alter things that I've done just to get it right moving forward. Now I'm going to just do where I want some of the waves and the key parts of the waves and the ripples coming in around her feet and beyond her into the background. And they're just suggestive marks. They're nothing definite, and they will mostly be erased during the course of the painting. Now I'm just suggesting where I want the reflection. And again, that was just a small suggestion. Now I'm looking at different masking fluids. I'm using the Schminker one, which is a lovely blue one, so you can see exactly where you've been. Now if I'm using a brush here, I would have dipped it into washing or dish soap first, just so that it didn't bind the material into the brush itself at the end. So you do preserve the brush. That's a great tip, is to use dish soap. Now I'm using all sorts of little marks, little taps here, little taps there. I wanted smaller marks, so I used the end of a cocktail stick to do the same thing. Now I'm testing my watercolor, and it's a combination of ultramarine blue and cobalt blue, and I'm working around the edge of the little girl. Now that's not a big problem to go over it, but I wanted the arms and the dark areas to be very warm, and if they'd gone over with a lot of blue paint, then I would have lost that. It would have cast those brown colors well before I wanted them to be in any other cast other than the warm cast. So I worked around them. Now any areas on the masking fluid that are wet, try and get some of that off. You don't want it pooling and drying darker. Now I added the same two mixes, but this time I put a little bit of Cobalt Turquoise into that mix. It just gave me that subtle little shift that I could put into these waves as they approach the shore and give that lovely little lift to the whole area. I then went back to a little bit of blue, a little bit of cobalt, just to give it a slightly different look as the water sort of settled down and comes around and starts to face the sky again. It gives you that light curvature to the wave. I put a little bit more warmth, a little bit of raw sienna went into that, just to give it a little bit more warmth under the real darker parts of the waves. So with that said and done, I started just come over generically, bringing it down and not worrying about the masked areas. They will come off later, but I really needed to make the area around the head and around the hat quite dark, because that at the end of the day is what's really going to show that lovely little bonnet hat off once the masking fluid is taken away. So now I'm erasing a little bit and just working on areas of the water, the ripples where they cross each other, and they're just coming into the shore. Little bits of raw sienna going in just to warm up those blues and those sort of greeny blues that I've been using so far. Strong darks, lovely little tonal shifts in the water to give me a sense of movement in the water. And again, that lovely burnt sort of raw sienna coming in just to shift the warmth into the not only the ripples but also the reflection too. I'm darkening off and putting some ripples and a little bit of movement in the water. There's barely any water over the sand, just enough to cover her tiny little toes. You can imagine it is extremely shallow there. So with all that done, and I really am just darkening off, as the painting dries, you start to see how light the color that you've put on before dries up, and you do have to make different decisions at different times to go back in and re-emphasize with another layer over the previous layer. It may be a case that you've decided that you want to make it darker anyway, but certainly it will dry lighter than the color when it first goes on. So I've just started working on the little child, and I've done the areas of the blue hat, and again I didn't have to worry because of the masking fluid. I've gone with a very superficial violet, warm violet mix on the skin. That's just to give me an idea and to work forward. And I put the first, which is a greeny grey color of the little dress that she's wearing, and I put a little bit more cobalt turquoise towards the light areas, and there is an area around the front that is actually missing, which is masked off, giving me the highlights. What I also did, there's a little pattern in the dress or in the skirt, and I actually sort of lifted a little bit of paint off, waited it for drying up a little bit, and then I moved back in with the next layer of color. And it's not the last one I'll do, I will do another one as well, but there's a little bit more cobalt turquoise in this, but you can distinctly see I've left little areas where the patterns are suggested. I haven't tried to replicate the patterns, I've merely indicated the patterns, and I've gone over with a second coat over the bonnet, giving that a slightly different darker look, and now I'm putting a very dark warm accent, and this is why I didn't want to go over the skin with blue paint from the sea. I waited and was very careful to make sure I went around it, so that when I put this layer of skin color on this dark, it really showed up dark but was also very warm and not cast or not influenced by a blue color or cool color underneath it. And you can see now that I'm going in with the shadow areas, real strong lights and darks. I'm loosening off a little bit, taking off a little bit of the edge. I didn't want it too hard there. I just merely wanted to suggest that there was a little difference, but it's still light and dark, and that's what I really wanted to achieve. I needed to get that heavy darks in, which is really what sets this picture up. It's that contrast. Now I've gone in and I've just put a dark underneath the legs and the foot, and I've just gone back and lifted a little bit off, but I wanted to come in with a slightly warmer color. Now the top part's dry, I can come in with that third and final layer of the dress itself, putting a little bit of darks in for the fleets here and there, just a slightly greener with a bit more deep blue into there as well, just to suggest it. Now's the time. It's all dry, and I've got to stress, you really must make sure your paper is absolutely dry before you do remove masking fluid, and try to do it with a piece of paper towel like this so that you don't rub any oils from your fingers into the remaining paper that you've yet to color or do with as you wish to finalize the painting. Now I'm coming in and I'm refining all those little bits and pieces. A little bit too much fluid on one side, so I'll come in with a darker blue over the hat, a few very fine lines that I couldn't put in there before because obviously there was masking fluid there. So making tiny adjustments as I come to a conclusion on this painting, and we are not far off. I'm coming in with the little darks of the patterns on the dress. That just finishes it off, and I'm putting a bit darks around the front where you've got the contrast against the highlights. All little tricks to really emphasize the light and the dark on the little figure and of course of the day. Now I'm losing some of the whites in the waves themselves. The masking fluid is okay, but it's never an exact way of putting mask. You know, there's no exact way of putting masking on. It has a little spread to it. You can't be as fine, so you do have to sometimes come in and make a few adjustments. I'm coming in over some of the lights that I'd left with a very distinct warm color, and then underlying it or underpinning the waves and the shadow areas with some darker blues. And I'm also coming back into some of these whites on the waves just to lessen the white impact, but give them the subtle greeny colors. And I used a little bit of the Cobalt Turquoise in here because you get that slightly icy color when water is foamy and frothy. And well, I've noticed that anyway myself, and that's what I decided to use. So now I am really just honing in to the finish, and I am looking at all the little bits and pieces. I'm putting some bluer colors and stronger lines that are suggesting the eddies in the water as it's coming backwards across the sand and going out to meet the oncoming tiny little waves that are coming in. And these are strengthening movement, and they're giving me a stronger light and dark. And once they're dry, I will put on a nice wash in the foreground just to finish off the sea and add weight to the final part of the picture. Okay, so I've just added an extra layer to the reflection underneath, but what I want to do now is this wonderful cast shadow from the back of the child moving outwards. It's the little statement that really ties her to the ground, but really just finishes off this whole painting. It is a lovely contrast statement, and it was just great to have it there to be able to do. Now I'm just putting that wonderful glaze over the bottom of the picture to add weight to the bottom and hold the whole thing together. And hey, it's all done. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun. So there we go. Catch you all next time. Okay everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun doing it. It really was a special little subject. Just that little child thing always tugs at the heartstrings, doesn't it? But I felt that it was well worth doing, and I do hope that you've enjoyed yourselves watching it and found something in there that you can take on in your own endeavors artistically. And if you do, then let me know in the comments. Let me know you've done one, and I'm not sure quite how you can let me see a picture, but even if you wish to email, I love to look at it, love to see how you get on, and if I get the chance, I'll always answer that. So yeah, let's see how you do. And in the meantime, happy painting, everybody, and please in these troubled times, stay safe, be careful, but moreover, keep those brushes going. Catch you all in the next video. All the best for now. Bye.